Welcome to Desi Return Diaries, Embracing Home Again, the podcast that shares personal journeys and expert insights on returning to India. I'm your host, Avinash Pedi, here to guide and inspire you on your Desi return journey. Hope you're all doing great. Today, I'm excited to welcome our guest, Prasad, who has lived in US for almost 5 years and who has been working in India before moving to US, lived there for 5 years and came back and started his own startup. A lot of exciting stuff and looking forward to the show. With that, welcome Prasad to the show.
Thanks, Avinash. Thanks for providing me the opportunity to be on your show. Looking forward to interaction with you.
Great. So Prasad, if you can give a bit background about yourself, what you were doing, your academic and professional background when you went to US, what made you to go to US, and the factors that impacted to make the decision to move back to India. That would be very helpful for the audience.
Sure, Avinash. I actually started working professionally in a software engineering firm, Mindtree, in the year 2011. So since 2011, actually, I was working, and I switched from Mindtree to Infosys, and then I moved to a US healthcare company called Optum in India. So it's well known globally by United Healthcare or United Health Group, which is one of the Fortune 5 companies, right? So I moved to that in 2015, and then in 2017, I got this opportunity to move to US from India, from my employer. So I decided to take it because we were in a time where we wanted to explore the world, travel around, also make money, of course, right? Nobody would say no to that. So it was a great opportunity, and there was no reason for us to say no. So we moved to Southern California, Orange County in 2017. And yeah, it was a great 5 years. We spent almost 5 years there. We had a daughter. She was born in US. And we actually got to travel like almost like 14, 15 states while we were there in US. That is one thing which we really enjoyed. So our traveling avenues opened up. The way we could explore the different cuisines opened up.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a great experience out there. Now, what made us rather decided to come back to India was definitely during the COVID. So COVID was a very significant inflection point because we saw a lot of close families and friends who were suffering, and many they lost their parents or siblings or family or friends around, and they couldn't be here. So we could see the desperation in them. Luckily, that's what, like, none of our family members got affected, but that was a pretty big tipping point for us, where we decided, okay, if we can't stay close to family, then there is no point in being with them. So we wanted to move back. And also the immigration also was not helping either, right? Like immigration was a big challenge. I think even now it is, where every few years you had to have your stamping done, and during stamping you had to come back to India, and you had to wait for your stamping to be done. So till then you can't go out of the country and all of that. So luckily I was on L1, and I know this is different for a lot of people who are on H1s, right? So people who are on H1, they also have the fear of losing their jobs in case they move to India some temporarily, or like they want to visit India to tend to the family members and all that. So that is also something which I've seen among close family and friends. So that time, me and my wife talked about it, and then we realized, okay, hey, first thing is we were here for short-term basis. We always thought we are going to be there for just few years, maybe 5 to 8 years, and then we'll come back. And COVID was something which taught us a very important lesson that, hey, you need to be available with your family when they need, like immediately. So being in US was not possible for us at that point of time. So we realized in the future, if situation warranties us that we have to be in India, we won't be able to come immediately, leave everything and come to India. So that is one of the major points. The second thing is we also saw a very tremendous amount of opportunity in India in the recent past. We are seeing everywhere like different schemes of government, Make in India scheme or Startup India scheme, all these different schemes. And I was actually all along pretty excited about these things. So from the longest period of time, I mean, I can think of, I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur myself, and I've never found the right time, like all along. But being in US, it also helped me, have built some financial stability by which I could think of doing this. But being in US, starting a firm was not easy. It has its own challenges, and it's very expensive. It's not easy at all. And we trying to cater to the US market, being on an immigrant visa is not easy because you have a lot of permissions that you need to run through, a lot of hassles. Um, it's not easy to hire people for you, and salaries are not less either. But again, the population also, we don't understand the demographics completely. Being immigrants, we don't understand the local demographics all that well. So all that led me to move back to India. We decided, and then finally decided we moved back in beginning of 2022. We decided to come back, and yeah, I mean, we've been pretty good. And after that, we took some time to settle down, set up a home in India and everything. Then finally, I quit my work and then decided to pursue my own startup.
Okay, great. Yeah, thanks for sharing the different factors that influenced, making this decision to move back. So maybe if you can talk a little bit about the logistics, right? I think sounds to me that I think during the COVID time is when you seriously considered to do it right now instead of like delaying it further. Maybe anything on like logistics, like for example, like how long you planned for, anything that you handle, right? Whether it's like shipping stuff, taking care of some of the logistics, anything that you can talk from your journey.
Sure, definitely. So it was actually, it was not a hard decision. So after we decided, so we were dilly dallying for a month to see whether we want to move back. And then around, I think I remember maybe a November, December time frame of 2021 is when we decided, hey, we want to move back. So then I discussed with my firm. I let them know I want to move back. So I'm like, I don't want to renew my visa again. So my visa was also up for renewal. So I said, okay, I don't want to renew my visa. I want to move back. So while moving, um, we have seen a lot of people, around friends, are trying to carry stuff, container and everything. So for those people who want to carry, I mean, there are easy options. Universal relocations is one of the uh, options. So that's actually a pretty famous, well-known one. Usually people, send their whatever they want, right? They would have collected souvenirs to some furniture that they want to carry. But we didn't carry much because we didn't want to carry. We realized there are a lot of things available in India. India is not anymore where you don't get things. You get equally good things in India. The same companies which are available in US are also available in India right now. So in light of that, we decided to just carry our souvenirs, the memories that we have, and our daughter's toys and other things, but nothing significant. We didn't carry any furniture. We just decided to move. We didn't want to bring in anything.
Okay.
But I understand if somebody wants to carry and bring stuff, because I did see some of my friends who also moved around the same time as we did. So they did carry through universal relocations. That they shipped some of them, and it was not all that expensive. It was pretty decent. I think they got their stuff around 2 to 3 months time frame.
Yes, yeah, for the full container, and especially during the COVID time in the early 2022, there were some of these logistics issues, availability of the container, but otherwise it should be much more even a smooth sail. Okay, sounds like I think it's a pretty straightforward move in your case, able to make the decision and move back to India. So I think you kind of touched about it slightly. So you have transitioned with the same company, I'm guessing with Infosys, from US to India, when you're when you're moving back to India, right, for some time before you started your startup.
Yeah, so I actually was part of Optum,
Optums,
United
yes, sorry.
Healthcare
Yeah,
company. So basically, yeah. So from 2014, I was in Optum, and then 2015 is 20. I'm sorry, 2015 I was in Optum. 2015 to 2017, I worked in India. Then I moved to US, and after that, I moved back with the same firm. So
got it. Sorry, my
after
bad.
that,
It's not Infosys, it's the Optum.
yes,
So
yes, yeah,
you've been with the
yeah,
same
no
company.
worries.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I was with Infosys for a very brief period of time between 2014 to 2015.
Cool. So I think one thing maybe you can, if you're open, maybe you can shed a little bit light about the startup, right? I think the flexibility of doing that in India versus maybe in US. I think the timing, maybe how you planned about it. If there is anything that you have thought about it beforehand, like while you're still in US, or you know setting up the stones ready to move to the transition. Anything that you can share on that side?
Yeah, definitely. So in 2021 itself, like sometime around Jan, February timeframe, we were thinking about it to see if we can start a startup in US, right? And then I realized that quitting my job and starting my own startup was not an easy option at all. It was not even an option for me because the amount of expenses that we would incur while in US was a challenge. And second thing is the immigration itself. To start my own firm, I couldn't start in my name because I was on a L1 visa and I had to start in my spouse's name. So it was actually quite a bit of challenge. So in that aspect, it is not easy navigating around the system and then setting up or even quitting and doing it full time. Consider the very thought of considering quitting and doing full time was not an option.
Hmm.
So after moving to India, it was a lot easier because we had a bit of financial stability and my wife also picked up a job. So if somebody is concerned about the fact that I actually moved because I could I didn't have to search for a job, right? With my employer being the same. But my spouse actually had to quit in US and then when she moved back, it was actually very easy for her to find a job. So within 1 month, she had 4 offers lined up and she was very specific that she wanted a remote job because we had a young daughter at home, 1 year old daughter. So she was very specific saying, hey, I want to ensure I want to get remote work because I want to be close to my daughter. So she had 4 offers within no time, even though it was pandemic and even though a lot of people talked that a recession has started and it's difficult in this landscape and all that, it was very easy for her to get a job. Considering we have worked in US and we have that US experience, there are a lot of people who are actually willing to hire us or hire her rather because she's actually worked there in US. So that was an easy choice. So it's those people who are actually contemplating whether they'll get a job here when they move back, how easy or difficult it is. Believe me, it is very easy. I've seen a lot of people actually get jobs, great jobs, in fact, after moving back.
So
So then
maybe,
moving on to the startup part, right?
oh,
Sorry.
sorry. Maybe just one quick question on this career transition for your
Mm-hmm.
wife. Has she applied
Mm-hmm.
while in US, or maybe after coming to India? Because we hear some questions from some of these aspirants who are trying to apply while in US. Maybe some of the issues with employers not considering them to be serious if they're going to come back or not. So just curious, in your case, has your wife applied while in US or after coming to India? Like she started applying for the opportunities, and and it was a quick turn to get the job.
Yeah, actually, she applied after coming back to India mainly because she wanted to take a break, a few months. She wanted to spend time with the family, travel around and everything. So I know a lot of people have the notion that you take a break, then a break in employment, then you may not get a job. But there is no such thing. So
Yeah.
she, I think, quit in January in US, and then she joined here in India in July of 2021. So even though it was a gap of 6 months, nobody actually even asked anything about it. So it was
Got it.
a very easy thing for her. She started applying, I think, in first week of July, and by last week of July, she was already working.
Oh, got it. Okay. So yeah, now maybe you can share some information about your startup that you're about to say earlier. Yeah.
Sure, sure, Ramesh. So yeah, starting startup in India was actually a lot easier, right? We have support system, we have people. There are a lot of people who are uh, ready to help you, assist you. There are services, very easy services, very cheap services, affordable services. I shouldn't call it cheap, very affordable services, uh, which can help you accelerate the process of starting a startup. So for a few months, I started the firm in April, and I continued to work. I informed my employer that hey, I'm starting my firm. I would like to continue to work for some time parallelly because have hired people to help me with the development and design and everything because that is something which I could afford being in India. I couldn't do that while I was in US. I couldn't afford people, I couldn't afford resources because they were so expensive. And doing it across India to US was also a challenge because and a lot of people do this where they start a firm in US and then hire people in India to do the development or design and everything. But to me, being here in India and collaborating directly with the team helped me a lot. So I was very upfront about all of this to my employer. I told, okay, hey, if you're not fine with me starting while working, then I'm ready to quit right now. But if you're okay, I'd like to take it few months, and then finally I'll quit when I'm ready for it. So they were very supportive. So that is, I mean, I was lucky there. They were supportive, and for a few months I juggled both. Then I realized it was getting too much for me because it was taking a lot of my effort doing two jobs. So then finally I decided to quit my other paying job and coming into startup full time. And
Okay.
now I see that there is a very big network and support for the startup ecosystem in India. So every week there are like a lot of events happening in almost every major city in India, where there is a connect between startup founders, investors, and there are people who or even for marketers across companies, doesn't matter. So there are events happening every week. So I've been to few of them, and like I've got wonderful support from the other founders and investors too.
Sounds like, I think, a very good ecosystem for the startups, especially with a lot of these government initiatives or programs, and a lot of groups helping out each other. So the ecosystem is definitely booming, and a lot of opportunities if somebody is considering that option in India. So
Oh yeah,
Prasad,
definitely, completely
yeah.
agreed.
Maybe because
Hmm.
you have worked in India, for some time before moving to US, and I think after moving here, you kind
Hmm.
of worked for some duration, and then kind of went into your own entrepreneur kind of a role. Uh, Maybe you can talk a little bit about the work culture, the contrast, like pre-US, maybe after US. Have you noticed any differences in terms of like how India has progressed, or maybe just somebody who has worked in US for certain years, their experience here? So anything that you can shed a light in terms of the work life balance, the culture, um, and also like from an entrepreneur, like some of the challenges, I think that definitely would be very valuable.
Yeah, that is actually a great point, Avinash. So, prior to me traveling to US, right, what I did notice in India was the culture, work culture, right? In India was more about focus on work, work, and work. So I have also had put in like a lot of hours, regardless of the companies, right? Like whether it is proactively yourself or somebody asking you to do it. But it so happens that everybody is doing it, and you don't want to be like lost in the race. Where you're like, hey, somebody else is doing more work than me, so what if I don't, get a better rating or a better hike, whatever, right? So you're doing this. And from the employer side, also the focus was not so much on the life and balance part. It was more about work part. And while I traveled to US, I mean, I think everybody assumes also that hey, it's a lot of work-life balance. But yeah, I mean, there is a decent amount of work-life balance depending on the employer. I've seen some employers being very ruthless or being very work-oriented. So I mean, even from my work initially, because I transitioned from India to US, I took my work culture from here to there.
Yeah.
So I was initially working the same amount of time I was working in India, but I slowly realized that that is not the case. I can focus on my health and travel and my family and life, the finer things of life, right? So that's when I realized, and I started focusing on that. And my image of India was the same before I moved back. I thought, okay, hey, India is what it is when I left. So I think this is what most people are stuck with. So their image of India is exactly what they had seen before they left. And I was in for a drastic shock when I moved back to India. I mean, pleasant surprise rather, right? Not shock. Pleasant surprise after moving back to India because things have changed a lot. So, in terms of the salaries that people are being paid in India, it was absolutely surprising to see people get paid a huge amount of money. First thing, the Indian market had almost kept up, rather, in fact, beyond the global level. So that is one thing that is for a pleasant surprise for all of us. And the second thing was there were so many companies focusing on work-life balance, mental health, workouts, and all that. So even from my own employer, I noticed that they were offering cult fitness classes. They were offering some yoga classes. I was like, wow, this is good. And there's generally like people used to work late nights earlier, and now there is a very serious focus shift from the management saying, hey, nobody has to work late. You're not supposed to work late. Like log off early if you don't have it to be online. So that is a big change I noticed. And I also noticed the same thing. I mean, this is not just from one
Yeah.
employer, right? My employers. I've also noticed this from many of the other peers too, where they also say, hey, yeah, weekend we are off, we are traveling somewhere, we are doing something, we're going for a hike, or we are going out of town, all of this. So these kind of things have come into play now. So
Mhm.
that is actually a very good thing that I'm seeing, a good change that is happening in India, where people have started focusing beyond work. I think the younger generation, right, the millennials, they don't want to be tied down with work. They want to go enjoy the finer things of life. So there are a lot of avenues which are being developed right now. So previously, I'd never seen a golf driving range in India, and now I see there are a lot of golf driving ranges right now. And initially, hiking was not a thing, right? Like people went because very early people wanted to go. But now there are weekend hikes, short hikes. There are a lot of people who are going out doing these things, or weekend retreats. So
Yeah.
these are all unheard of. Now these are something which you hear day in and day out. So yeah, that has been a big shift in the culture which I'm seeing in the work culture right now. And I do notice that there are a lot of companies who are giving their employees Fridays, second half off, or for them to work on whatever they want. It could be something that they're excited about, be it learning or they want to do something on their own. So for all of this, they are getting support. So yeah, I think it's pretty exciting. After being back, I did notice the similarities in the work culture now in India to US.
Yeah, that's great. I think sounds like a lot of evolution in terms of the perks or flexibilities that are offered to the workforce. Especially, I think it's just going to be much more competitive to keep the the team engaged, employees engaged. So employees are all like also adapting to the needs of millennials or the new work culture to make sure those are all available. I think it's great to hear. I think for those people who are considering, I think it's worth talking to your friends or the people or the colleagues, who are working in India to understand this a bit better in terms of the lifestyle, in terms of the culture. This is something that's also another important thing that's on people's mind. But there are a lot of changes that has happened recently. So just I think thanks for sharing your thoughts on that. So
Yeah, of course.
one last thing, I think after moving to India, is there something that you have missed living in US?
Actually, that's a great question. So yeah, I mean, I would be lying if I say no. Um, we were in a place where we were just 10 minutes away from the beach. So we would actually go take a stroll in the evening after work, or just go there for have. We would just pack a tea or coffee and go and have watching the sunset. So that
Wow.
is something I think both me and my wife miss. And yeah, I mean the national parks, right? US is known for national parks and the amazing drives that we get. But again, you win, you get some and you lose some, right? End of the day, it's all about what you want. And here, I've been very thankful that I've been, being close to family now, so I get to spend a lot more time with my family, be close to my friends, and the biggest change that I noticed is in my daughter, right? So when we were in US, so our daughter was just 8 months old, and she was very apprehensive to meet anybody or even like see or talk to anybody. Like my talk as in she's not, I mean, infant, that's a different thing, but still, and then somebody new, a stranger would come, she was very scared. Like she would be really scared and start crying. And even after moving back for several months, she carried the same thing because in US it's all quiet and it's just the two of us with the baby, and um, she did not have much exposure. But after moving back, within like maybe 3 4 months time, we started seeing a big shift in her, change in her, where she started interacting more. We started like getting better with everybody, just playing with everybody. So, and since then she's become very talkative and very outspoken. So we were like, okay, this is a very big change, and this is something which we have seen. for in kids in India. And then when I talk to some of my peers, right, or my family members in US, and when they notice our daughter growing up here versus their own kids being there, they say, "Hey, this is such a significant change that you see here," because the kids get exposed to a lot of family members and friends and all that. So yeah, I mean, India is all about people. We have the largest population in the world, so at least make better use of it,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
So
I
yeah,
mean,
that
I
has
think,
been that has worked to our advantage.
yeah, especially I think the kids, right? I think, the pamper, the exposure, I think the opportunities for them to meet so many people, and then they also like learn quickly because there are a lot of people talking to them, or they are exposed to several things compared to what they would have in another country, just because everybody is busy, or
Correct,
the different aspects to that. Yeah. Cool. Is there
100%.
any topic or anything that we haven't covered that you would like to bring it up to the future aspirants who are considering to move back to India?
Yeah, one thing I want to cover is I think India is currently growing to a tremendous phase of growth where you have opportunity to do anything, right? Like this is where you have to be. This is where all the action is right now. The world's action is here. So you see a lot of industries coming and setting up their offices here. A lot of manufacturing companies shifting from China to India, leveraging the SOPs which government has laid out. Yeah, I mean, this is a great place to be right now. Perfect place. I know there are compromises you would feel that, hey, I'll be compromising on this or that, or will I get a job? But I think, believe me, this is a place where you want to be because this is the exciting part. This is where all the action is happening. And you will not definitely miss US as much as you think really you would miss. Like it's been more than 1.5 years since we moved, or almost 1.5 years, and it's definitely gone like a breeze, right? Like it's been so quick. We didn't even realize how soon the time passed.
Mhm.
So that is something. And next thing is you can afford all the support and help that you need in India, which you won't get if it's not possible while in US. You have to probably request your parents or in-laws or somebody to, hey, can you just come over for some time and help us because we are struggling. Because if you have a kid or something, or you want your let's say both the husband and wife are working, and the wife the work part is difficult for both of them, then to even play with the kids, you need somebody
Yeah,
because there is only so much the daycare or the schools do. So you're instead of doing all that, you can just move back to India. It's very easy. You have a great support system, and you can afford to do a lot of things here than that those things which you couldn't afford back in US. And
great.
India is changing for the good. So every like if you see all the cities, all the major cities, they have metro connectivity. That's fantastic roads. So I was actually pleasantly surprised uh, the seeing the highways like right now. Somebody had told me that I could use cruise control for more than 10 minutes in India, I would laugh it off 2 years ago. I'm like, hey, this is a big joke. But right now, I can confidently say I can use almost more than an hour, like continuously cruise controls when I'm traveling across states. So the highways are beautiful. It seems like as though like these roads have been got from US, right? So yeah, there's a big change. Come and explore India, come and experience India, and then you take a decision, right? You don't have to take a drastic change immediately if required. But come and live, experience, not travel. So when somebody comes for say 2 weeks, right, it's a
It's
very
true.
short experience.
Yeah,
You can't really experience India. You will just be so busy, meeting your friends, family, and all that. You don't actually get to experience the India, the new India. So yeah,
that's
I would
true.
say give it a few months.
Yeah, it's uh, visiting for a few weeks versus living for a couple of months, even if it is possible. It's definitely, not as a visitor but living here, right? Living in your own house, or something is different. Experience it. I think there has been a lot of changes, things, whether it's a work life culture, the infrastructure, the services, the food options, the lot of these goods, things that are available, the digital India. There's a lot happening. I think it's good to explore and consider that, so that you are evaluating your options appropriately, and not to think the India like what you have in mind whatever it was, right? I think, and you might not experience the same thing when you're just visiting for a week or 2 weeks. So if possible, and if you have the flexibility, it's good to spend time if you're seriously considering about relocating back to India, to give it a try and understand how it could be living, by yourself. uh, with that said, I think we are moving to our final segment of the show, which is the rapid four. The first question is surprise thing after returning to India.
For the digital penetration,
Oh yeah.
it's amazing. I was so pleasantly surprised. I was like, every, even the smallest of the fruit vendor or the vegetable vendor or the flower seller, they use Google Pay and Phone Pay and all that. That was pretty surprising. And this is something which is not there in US as well. Even in the US, we think it's the most developed country, but believe me, I have not seen this kind of effort. I was like mind blown.
Yeah,
I just
fintech.
love this.
Fintech, where
Absolutely.
we are in India is much, much, much in an advanced stage where you don't even have to take your wallet, card, anything. All you need is your
Oh
phone,
yeah.
and you're good to go. Like the interlinking of all your banks, cards, your mobile, it's seamless. So definitely a lot of progress in that in India. What's your favorite
Yep.
travel destination in India?
Kashmir.
And your favorite Indian dish or a restaurant?
Favorite Indian, I mean, being a South Indian, I would say any South Indian food. Restaurant wise, something very close to my heart is a local restaurant in Bangalore called SLV,
Okay,
famous for its you know yummy idlis and vadas. So that's my favorite, I would say, the
great.
local food.
And the last one is favorite part of living in India.
Favorite part of living in India is being close to everybody, being close to family,
Great.
and
So,
experiencing that Indianness.
yes. So I think that's all for today, folks. Thank you very much, Prasad, for taking your time and sharing your journey as well as your valuable insights, especially on the work culture, ease of starting a startup here in India, and some of the thought process that went behind, moving to India, and the things to consider, for people who are evaluating these options. So I really appreciate to take the time and sharing your experience and journey with us today.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. Um, I'm I'm glad I could participate in the show and share my experience.
Great. Thank you all for joining us on this insightful journey of Desi Return. If you enjoyed this episode and want to explore more stories and expert advice, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Don't forget to leave a comment below with your thoughts and experiences. By the way, check out the links in the description below for our Facebook group and social media for updates and engaging discussions, as well as connecting with fellow Desi returners. Thank you once again, and until next time, may your Desi return journey be filled with joy, growth, and endless possibilities.